Thursday, February 27th, 2020. Roll call, please.
President Hansard.
Here.
Vice President Hawthorne.
Here.
Director Brown. Director Floor.
Here.
Director Nielsen.
Here.
General Manager Moffitt.
No, here's the vice president.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not the vice president.
Sorry about
I'm the
that.
timekeeper.
You're the timekeeper.
And I'm here.
And you're here.
Okay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Make sure I have that right.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item C, public input. This is the opportunity for public comment on any non-agendized item within the jurisdiction of the district board. However, no action may be taken by the board on these topics or matters presented during this public input agenda item. The public must address the board on specific agendized items only during the consideration of those items. So the first card we have is Alton, right?
Thank you. Unfortunately, the secrecy and the never-ending incompetence of this board, the four complicit, now turning into three complicit directors and Manager Maupin, is really destroying this district. Last month it was revealed that millions of dollars of power revenue are drying up, and that's been kept secret since last June, or even before. We also heard, it was revealed, that over $250,000 in grant money has been ignored and mismanaged. These are both facts. But we have two new facts that are pretty critical that people should sit up and listen to. Number one, fact, Manager Maupin has kept secret since early last November an offer by South Feather to resolve the ongoing audit war that is harming the relationship between the agencies. Millions of dollars are at stake, either in overpayment or underpayment, yet the issue has not been mentioned at the last two district meetings. Emails and phone records from South Feather about this issue have also been ignored by Manager Maupin, and we gave the letter to the grand jury attendees. Fact, and this is really, really rough. The district has never been informed, well, the district has never informed the public that our water rights are under severe scrutiny. After I received a CPR request and met with representatives of the California State Water Rights Division, they confirmed with me that the licensing extension for permit 11516 has been denied. The district has known about this for over a year and has kept it secret from the public. Over the decades, the district has attempted to perfect the water rights. Time extensions have always been regularly granted until now. There's nothing more important than protecting our water rights. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Vinci.
Hello, my name is Kwanzaa Jimmy Vinci. My family founded the Vinci irrigation line along with some fellow neighbors. But to be short, last season was real glad to receive our irrigation. This year really hoping for some rain and snow. But to be short here, more than anything, I was gone a little bit last year. And I went up north and it was to Eugene, Oregon. It's a pretty big city, pretty big county. And this is really just for the board. This is actually for the community members. The unique thing about being here, I have in-laws that are in the Bay Area. I have family that's up in Oregon. That's the thing I appreciate most about all you folks here. You choose to live in this community. So if we take the eye-to-eye approach, we'll eventually just be blinded, and maybe one day we do lose our water. Thank you for your time.
And next is Donna Corson.
Donna Corson, Dobbins. This board, this agenda is so big, it's very confusing. It just seems like it's not, there's no real math to it, there's no numbers on the bottom of the pages, there's no coordination as to which is which. I found it very confusing, and hopefully we'll be able to get through that, but it's very big and it seems purposely confusing. Thank you.
Okay, next is Jenny Cavalier.
I'd like to address the board and Manager Maupin regarding the treatment of your fellow director, Dr. Gretchen Fleur. I sat on this board for 23 years under 3 different managers, and it has only been with the most recent manager that board members are denied coming into the office to just get information. It used to be prior to the current manager, a board member would come in and actually be able to go into the vault and get anything they wanted. That's the right of a board member. Board member has entitlement to everything in this office except personnel files. By making her look bad in that last publication that went out to the public, was horrible. She did not have to spend the money the district had to pay. She had no reason that she had to request public record requests. She's a damn board member, guys. Start treating her with respect. And I think everyone in this room that agrees with me ought to stand up, because it's gotta stop. It's gotta stop. And I will tell you also, because you have members from your North Star here, the 2 women quit that work for North Star because they did not want to work with this manager. I'm not going to say any more. That's not true. That is true.
Okay.
100% true. Proof from wrath.
Okay. You're gonna have to take a seat. If there's no seat, you're gonna have to stand outside the door, please. Thank you. Okay.
On my seat. I'll stand outside.
Can we open the window?
Is this not allowed to open?
It's fine with the, you can hear the door open right there. That's fine. Stand outside the door there, you're fine. Charles Sharp.
We need some air anyway. It's really
Charles
hot.
Sharp, where's your podium? Every board meeting I go to, they have a podium of people. You guys must really don't like your public. You don't provide a podium.
Buy one. Yeah.
$50, you can find them on
Okay.
the best. That's not, oh, am I supposed to speak about the gerrymandered, new divisions of law until that comes up on the agenda?
This is public comment. You're open to,
Well, it's non-agendized,
okay.
so
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait.
save
on that.
those
Oh, wait
until.
to that.
Okay, good. You know, I feel especially bad for Heidi and Leona, that they have to pretend they don't know what's going on with this little water district, you know, and they have to put up with their overbearing boss, and do as he says they have to, or else he will do them in if they don't go along with some way. It's kind of weird. Oh, I have 2 submissions here for you.
What is so funny?
Secret documentation that you're not doing, the testing, you probably know. There's a letter to Todd Gloria from the manager complaining about Assembly Bill 203, which will require him to keep 2 years of email records. And he says, well, we can't afford that.
Okay, you're gonna have to,
That's
you're gonna,
agendized.
you can talk about that when we get to that item.
Oh, okay. And,
Anything on the agenda is considered an agendized item.
So Charles, you're gonna be doing that whenever it's,
okay, well, that's fine, thank you.
okay?
I have a question. Is that seat over there available?
No,
No, it's for.
Why not?
council.
for our attorney.
Okay.
They're not here.
Excuse me, you spoke.
That's what I did.
Zach Cross.
So for a while now, harassment has been taking place in this district by certain members of the community. Alton gave right on behalf of Ginger Hughes. She is filing temporary orders to seek ex parte orders and civil harassment charges. You were due in court the 3rd of March at 8:30 a.m. Will you be there?
No.
Thank you. Your service.
Excuse me, this isn't board business.
This is so inappropriate.
I have nothing else to
This is
say.
really
So
inappropriate.
inappropriate.
Okay. Any other comments?
Was appropriate in the answer.
Item D, consent items. Consent item D1, approval of minutes for regular board meeting of January 23rd, 2020. D2, approval of payroll for the month of January 2020 in the amount of $49,891.47. And D3, approval of bills for the month of January 2020 in the amount of $87,287.68.
I move that we accept the 3 consent items.
And I second that. Any comment?
Yes, we need to hold on the minutes because the minutes are not accurate. At the last board meeting, I specifically requested that this letter be included in the meeting minutes. It was not included in the meeting minutes, and so these are not correct. They're not accurate. So we need to remove that. This needs to be added in, and then the meeting minutes can be approved for last month.
I'll amend my motion, subject to the change that Director Ford requested. I move that we approve the minutes.
The minutes
I have
actually.
some questions on that.
I'm
that I
sorry,
would like,
approve all 3 items.
I'd like to talk to our legal counsel on a couple questions I have regarding that.
Minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So until legal counsel gets here, I would like to ask a few questions of her before can we table that and come back to it?
As long as we don't approve it right now, absolutely. I have some questions for legal counsel myself.
We could move on that, come back to it.
We'll table it,
Okay.
or I'll withdraw the motion.
All right, so item F, financial manager's report.
Okay. As of January 31st, total cash in all accounts, including reserves, was $4,819,101.30. Total income for the fiscal year to date, which was July 2019 through January 31st, was $1,017,378.14. Total expenses were $1,116,342.74, leaving a net loss of $98,964.60. And that concludes my report.
I have a number of questions. So Heidi, I'm just wondering where we are. We're at the halfway point in our fiscal year. And so I'd like to know where we are, where we stand with our budget. Are we on track with it? Are we under what we projected? Are we over? Where are we?
Is this report that you gave us,
You can look on the,
we're within,
Are you
Yeah.
prepared to report? Are you prepared to report?
We're, I mean, it looks like we're below budget actually.
Okay.
Except, unfortunately, legal costs are more than we had budgeted year to date. Now the legal costs in the next few months are not as high as they were then, it could still come out through the year on budget. But, despite them being over budget, there were other costs that we had budgeted for that we didn't have yet.
have they
So we're still
kinda
looking
evened
really
out?
good.
Okay. Okay. And then I have a number of questions regarding the expenses out of reserves. Because expenses out of reserves typically are, you're actually buying a thing as opposed to, doing something else with it, like an air compressor, that's a thing. So apparently we've got expenses out of reserves for a DWR grant. Is that the Prop 1 grant, the $500,000 grant? It's a different grant? Which grant is that?
Okay. These are questions that you would submit, correct?
No, these are questions that need to be answered in public, so the public also receives this particular information.
Okay.
It is not clear here, and so these are questions that any finance manager should be able to answer.
Excuse me, there's cross-talking going on.
Yeah.
So the DWR grant is for the challenge tank. That's the resolution you guys did a couple months ago. It was approved unanimously.
So that is expenses that we are paying, or is that going to be billed to that grant then? Will we be reimbursed for that, or is that just gonna stay coming out of reserves?
Yeah, that I'm not sure of.
Okay.
I know we're in the process of applying and doing all that stuff with it.
Okay. We also have out of reserves expenses for the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation grant. What did we purchase? What did we purchase? Because my understanding is that the Bureau of Reclamation grant, what did we purchase? Did we purchase something?
I have to
Anything?
look at that and get back to you on that one.
Okay. I appreciate that. I can give you this list at the end. The next question is, this is the first time that something called the Orlevy Forbes-Town Ditch Grant is listed anywhere. Where did this grant come from? What grant is this? Is this a new grant?
Orleva Creek is part of the Forbes-Town ditch. Well, we have been negotiating with Yuba County Water Agency to fund. They have said they would support our efforts. So that would be the grant we'd be chasing is with them.
So Yuba Water Agency,
Mm-hmm.
you've been talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
How much are you asking for?
We have to first see what the engineer's estimate is, and then we'll, as we move forward through the board package, if you approve the NOE, then we would solicit bids and we will see what they come in at, and then we'll know what we're asking for.
Okay, we'll get back to Orlevy when we get to that part in the thing. So what was purchased for this? Because I see there's $3,088, so something was purchased and is being...
For Orleva Creek?
It says it right here, Orleva Forbes-Town Ditch Grant. We've got $3,088. What was that for?
I'd have to go back through the bills.
Alrighty. Then we also, this is sort of interesting. Last month, we heard about the boundary change. We'll get to that also further later on. And we've got expenses out right down here. Boundary change, IT services, GIS support, $6,800. And yet, in the board packet, under cost for these boundary changes, there's nothing there. So I'm wondering about that discrepancy and why that isn't on the public hearing notice, $6,800.
That was, the board had given me some time back authorization to use the county. In fact, last board meeting, you voted unanimously for me to use the county. I use their GIS services for our mapping, to create our boundary maps, to create the de-annexation map, and to create the division map.
We'll get back to that later on. Okay. Two more questions. So down here we have current billing for the Forbes Town ditch. We still have this grant reimbursement sitting here even though the grant has expired. We have not met the requirements to get a time extension. And I see that now we have a almost $60,000 bill owed to North Star. So it is, and my understanding was that this was Yuba Water Agency gave you, what, $225,000 loan to pay that bill?
Say again?
Yuba Water Agency gave you a grant to pay that bill. So why is there a bill sitting here and why would this be coming out of reserves?
Okay, first of all, the extension of time has not been denied. It has not been determined whether or not we have met the criteria. Two,
right.
What I'm telling you is a fact. Two is that the person in charge of that grant has asked us to continue to bill against that grant while the extension of time is approved.
So my understanding is that the condition for the extension, which has not, I didn't say it was denied. What I said is that the extension has not been granted yet. And the reason it hasn't been granted is that they're requiring CEQA documents, which have not been submitted, that would then allow them to evaluate and decide whether they're going to give us an extension. So, again, the question here is, do we owe this money to North Star or has this money been paid? Because, again, Yuba Water Agency gave you a grant, and the reason for the grant was ostensibly to cover these costs from North Star.
Right. Those have been billed to the state. We've paid for them and we have not looked for reimbursement from Yuba yet.
Okay, and my last question is, where do the monies that come from a grant such as Yuba Water Agency, where does that show in any of these documents? Shouldn't it show as income? Don't they give you a check and you deposit the check, or
No.
are you supposed to send them proof that we paid something and they pay you back?
Correct.
Okay, great. Those are my questions. Thank you very much. And Heidi, I'll follow up on these two.
Director Floor, which, when you mentioned that the boundary change money, 6843.75,
Yes.
doesn't appear on the check register, is that what you said?
No, what I said is it doesn't appear on the public hearing notice under cost. There's nothing under cost, it's blank.
It is on the check register, top of page 3.
Which is fine, but the public hearing notice for the division boundary change under cost, which it's interesting. Here it is, conveniently, right here, there's nothing. There's no cost. No cost. That's my point. So the 6,800 should absolutely be listed under that, as well as whatever costs are anticipated to be incurred down the road. And that concludes my questions. Thank you very much, Heidi.
Anyone else? Public?
I have a question. Have we, gotten the money for the sale of water to the city for this year?
Excuse me, keep it to comments. You can make a comment. That's what it's a public comment. You're asking a question. Can you rephrase to make it a comment, please?
Historically, we've always received money from the sale of water to Yuba City. I'm just curious to see if that has occurred yet this year. That's a question. Is there an answer to that? Because I haven't seen it in the financials.
Anyone else? Okay. Make a motion that we approve the financial manager's report.
Second.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Sorry. I have to cheat. President Hansard,
Yes.
Vice President Nielsen,
Yes.
Director Floor. Yes. Director Hawthorne.
Yes.
Thank you. Item F, Resolution 20-741, adoption of the Butte County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
I have a question about this before we get too far into this.
Okay, let me introduce it.
Okay.
Okay, so it is proposed that the board adopt the Butte County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan as an official plan and submit the adopting resolution to the California Office of Emergency Services and FEMA Region 9 officials to enable the plan's final approval in accordance with the requirements of the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. The Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 made available hazard mitigation grants to state and local governments. Adoption of the Butte County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan is required as a condition of future funding for mitigation projects under multiple FEMA pre- and post-disaster mitigation grant programs. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Richard Rivera. I think
What? You have first, second, then board comment, then public comment before.
So what are you trying to ask?
Don't we have to have a first and second on this before it moves forward in the discussion?
To make a motion to approve the
You can.
plan.
You can do it either way.
I move we approve the Butte County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan for our use with our district.
I'll second.
And just a question about the top structure here. Is there an are they gonna add, are we gonna need to do something that's gonna cost us money that we don't know about? Or another way of saying it, the cost on the front page is NA, and the source of funding is NA. Does that mean it's a free program?
No, this was work you had North Star perform some time back. We are prepared to report on it. You might want to turn it over
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
Shut
to
up.
you.
Okay. I'll stand briefly. Neil Graver, North Star Engineering. I'm here to introduce staff. I have been an engineer with North Star for 30 years. I'm 62 in June. 16 years in remission with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I suffer coronary artery disease. I'm retiring in June. It's a happy retirement. There's no objection to people in this business here or in any of my clients. I've coordinated very well with North Star for the past 3 months and will continue for the next 3 months to transfer the management of my responsibilities to the 8 engineers that work under me. Rich Guevara worked on this hazardous mitigation plan, and he'll present for us tonight on that plan. I'll back up because I was directly involved in the plan also when needed. And Mark Wolf is taking over the position of planning director, and he will present on the subject later on in this meeting. So with that, if you have questions regarding the plan, the hazardous mitigation plan, what our involvement was in, ask Rich, and I'll support anything that he is unable to answer. Thank you.
Okay, Richard.
Yeah, so my name is Richard Guevara, again, working for North Star. For the most part, I will probably be taking over for Neil as far as communication with your district manager. For this hazard mitigation plan, our main work for this is to assist the county or the district in filling up the forms and trying to figure out what facilities you guys have, and as well as assist in filling up the paperwork that FEMA is requiring, so that we could allow to. I think if you would help me on this one, is so that FEMA could continue with the eligibility of federal funding assistance
Grant
for the
funding.
yes.
Right. So, I mean, if there's an opportunity or if there's an occurrence that causes an emergency due to some hazardous situations, this document allows us to work with the Butte County mitigation plan to access funds to repair any damage that are caused. So there is no cost at this point. It just simply is a mechanism that we work with the county to get us involved with to allow us to have legal access to those funds.
And again, if you guys have any questions, probably
Let's say something did happen within the boundary of our district. Would we go to the Butte County folks and work that through them, or would we go directly to FEMA or the national agency?
FEMA. You would go directly to FEMA.
So we're not in a hierarchy here of who gets to complain the most or anything.
Mr. Guevara, do you know, were you given access to or a copy of the last hazard mitigation plan that was written for this district?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell me what the changes were between that plan and this plan?
Not at the moment, but I can get that to you if you're interested.
Okay, I'm also curious because there's a Foster Morrison logo at the bottom of the pages, many of these pages, right there. What was their involvement in this document?
They are the company that was putting all the mitigation plan for the whole Butte County district. So what we did was fill out just for the North Yuba Water District and submitted it to them, and they're the one that puts them together.
Okay, so I want to say up front that I'm 100% in favor of us being part of the Butte County Hazard Mitigation Plan. We absolutely should be. There's no question about that. But I've read this plan, and I'm assuming, is this something that was a boilerplate thing that you got from Butte County, or was this something that you did from scratch?
No, they have a form for each district or counties that you had just filled up, and so what they're trying to do is have them all look the same and everything. So they do have a boilerplate. That
Okay, so what is this plan, this actual plan? Because I actually sort of take some exception to the word plan here. You know, the people of this district absolutely deserve to have every opportunity for education and hazard mitigation and prevention of hazards and hazard prophylaxis that you can possibly do. This county, our area is very, very, very high risk for fire. And we are definitely in need of hazard mitigation assistance and help. And what I don't see in here is actual plans. I mean, when I go through this document, there's a couple things. First of all, wildfire is identified as medium significance. That I would highly disagree with. It's highly significant in this area. We just went through the Cascades fire a little while ago. We had a fire last year that made it all the way to Marysville Road. And then the other thing is that you have another table in here that says, hey, what programs do you guys have in place that are involved in mitigating hazards? And basically across the board it's like nothing. No. North Yuba Water District Mitigation, Education, Outreach, and Partnerships. No. So what I don't understand is, isn't this a plan that should outline what this district is going to do to prophylactically, preventively, actively work with people, work with CAL FIRE, work with our local Dobbins, Oregon Hills Fire Department? Shouldn't those things be in here? Because otherwise what this looks like is, yeah, we want your grant money, FEMA, so we're just gonna do this thing so we can get your grant money, as opposed to doing what this community needs. We really have high risk from a lot of different things in this area, and I am not seeing anything in here other than it says, well, maybe we'll educate people and we think it'll cost $2 million, but then the only strategy is we'll have some kind of, a workshop once a year? I mean, there's that, it says right here, public education and outreach program. We don't have that. We don't have that, and it just says this will be an ongoing event. Who's gonna put the event
Well-
on? There's no details.
This is a tool for the district and board members to basically look at and plan for your own district. So if this is something that you guys are willing to do, and then this is something that you guys should probably.
Okay, so then the question is, if we don't do these things, because if you guys look at this, between actions 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, everywhere you look, $10 million, $2 million. I mean, this is $1 million. I mean, already I'm looking at $13 million to do stuff, and there's, you know, there's no plan, and is there an enforcement agency that comes along and says, hey, you know what, see these things you said you would do, you haven't done them, so maybe we're not gonna let you apply for FEMA funds? I mean, is there some kind of enforcement?
No, there's no enforcement on this one. Again, this is a plan.
I have a question.
I think there may be some confusion as to whether or not this document is the development of a plan
No,
or
this is-
a request to participate in a plan. And there, in the request to participate in the plan, what are your potentials? That's what's being asked of the district, and that's what we're trying to answer them. It's not saying that we have this plan. It's a kind of an interview process by the Butte County Mitigation Plan to request involvement in it.
Okay, so this is our application to get in the plan, and our application basically says, no, we don't have any of this stuff, but here are the 3 things we're proposing to do. And so please let us be part of your plan, because we have these 3 things we're proposing. Except in reality, only one of these things is actually proposed currently. And is that disingenuous?
No, I can't discuss it at this point. I'll review it, we can answer questions after the fact. We worked with the county, and they were most supportive of the plan, of our being involved in it. And we can bring on members of the Butte County that helped us, guide us through this process to answer questions that we're not able to answer at this time.
Okay, and
I think the important thing is that the people that wrote this on our behalf did identify the really difficult problems that we face. And so this is probably a suggestion also about what we ought to focus on. Does that sound right?
Sounds good. Like I said, I think we should involve the people who guided us through the process and get answers that are very succinct.
And who from North Yuba, who from the North Yuba Water District, and which members of the public were involved in assisting to put this together? Anybody?
I think he's talking more about Butte County.
Butte County. So it was you, Richard Guevara, and Kristen McKillop, who's no longer with your agency, the 2 people together who worked with Butte County. And that's what's represented here.
That's correct.
Does North Star have a contract for this project and a scope of work and a budget for this?
We have done it under our master services agreement with the district.
You have a master services agreement with us.
We provide consulting services under a specific job that has tasks assigned to it.
So you have an official, fully executed master service agreement? Or the only contract I'm aware of is a contract to develop engineering plans for the Forbes Town Ditch. That's why I'm asking. I'm not aware of a master service agreement that we have with North Star. If there is a master service agreement with North Star, I'd like a copy of that contract, please.
Actually, I'm sorry, hold on. Any other comments from the board? Public, go ahead.
Is there an overlay with South Feather, since it's Butte County, on possibly any of the joint operating facilities that we need to work with them on, or will they be doing their own Butte County plan, or how will that work?
I'm not entirely sure if Feather River is included in the district that put this plan together, but this plan specifically is for North Juba Water District.
Okay, because we share
Yeah,
facilities
we
with
don't
them.
know what South Feather Power and Water did with respect to involvement in the Butte County Hazardous Mitigation Plan.
There is an annex assigned to them, so they will be providing a plan.
Their own plan,
I'm assuming
okay.
there's a placeholder up on the website.
Anyone else? Dawn?
One paragraph in this is, I just don't know where it came from. NYWD's increased vulnerability to drought is due in part to farming on marginally arable lands and the pumping of groundwater to the point of depletion. The most significant quantitative impacts associated with drought in the planning area are those related to water-intensive activities. This is in relationship, I think, to Oregon House and Dobbins, and I don't know what study that came from. I don't know of any depleted water tables in our area. Is this accurate, is my question.
I have to look at that comment, yeah.
You'll what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'll have to review that and get back to the manager.
Yeah, that would be great. If you know of a study, please make it available.
Yeah.
Yes.
Still not podium. I read this plan too, and I kind of concur a lot with what Gretchen said. Where's the meat? Or where's the beef in this plan? You know, it outlines all kind of things you could do, but it's no, 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 we're not doing it, we're not doing it. And so I have some concerns. We can give an outline, let us say, but do you have any plans, or, you know, what plans are there to actually implement this mitigation? Because fires are very real hazard in that plan. It should be the highest priority, with all due respect. You know, it's very high around here. And the other thing is, Director Flora had his comments, but nobody else had any comments. It's almost like you didn't even read it. I hope you did, but you had no questions, so I guess.
Well, for example, it's not just a boilerplate. There's a list of the problems that we face.
Yeah.
And so it's been tailored for us
That's
already.
true.
Yeah.
So the job is to...
It's the beginning.
I think this table is a boilerplate. I think this is what you would find in any hazard mitigation plan. What I find...
I'm talking about the things that are included or excluded. Things that are significant or extensive.
Let me finish that public comment. Yes.
It'll be interesting to compare this mitigation plan against the last mitigation plan to determine what really was updated, what's really new, and what's boilerplate, and then do a cost analysis against what we paid North Star to figure out how much per page we're paying for this. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Cabral, I have one last quick question. There's mention, this plan keeps referencing base plan, but it doesn't define what that means. Are you talking about the Butte County Hazard Mitigation Plan itself as the base plan?
Yes, that's what Butte County is pointing at, yes.
Is that available?
Yeah,
It's
I
up on the
believe-
web.
Yeah.
It's on the web? Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I have a motion for resolution number 20-741.
You have a first and a second.
Okay. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
President Hansard,
Yes?
Vice President Nielsen,
Yes.
Director Floor, Director,
I'm gonna have to abstain. I really don't know what we're voting for here exactly, so I'm gonna have to abstain.
Okay.
Director Hopper,
Yes.
Okay, item G. This is public hearing for division boundary changes. Okay, this is a time and place for a public hearing relating to the district's proposed internal boundary map for directors' divisions. This public hearing provides a forum for review and comment on the proposed map for the divisions that each director represents. So with that, we'll turn it over for staff presentation with the divisional map.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we spoke last month with regards to the de-annexation, anytime that you make boundary changes, you have to reevaluate the balancing of your divisions. I had indicated that I was going to continue to work with the county since they have developed our mapping system for us, and I asked them to do just that, to look at our remaining area and to find balance in it, and this map is a result of that. The description that was provided you, I can just read that for the public's benefit. It says the description is to comply with state law following a boundary change. NYWD must adjust its interior division to balance the population in each division, which is looking at about 730 plus or minus per division now. And create a list of voters for the county election office use for future director elections. It's proposed that the interior divisions be adjusted based on the map provided at the board meeting. The map provided was developed using information from the following databases. The county had access to the assessor records, the county voting records, and the census data. If adopted, the effect is as follows. It basically walks us through that. In Division 1, Director Nielsen, he'll complete his term since his primary residency still exists in Division 1. Division 2, Terry Brown, he'll complete his term, however, since his primary residence is no longer going to be in Division 2. The boundary change has moved his home outside of it. He would no longer be able to represent that district. He'll just finish out the year. The Division 3, Gary Hawthorne, he will complete his term, but he's in the same situation. The boundary has moved his primary residence out of Division 3, but he's allowed to finish his term as director of Division 3. Division 4, Gretchen Floor, she'll complete her term as normal because her primary residence is within that boundary. And then the Division 5, Eric Hansard, he'll complete his term. Also, his primary residence remains in that division. And then, as required by the election code, the board is holding a public hearing to consider the proposed internal division map. At a future board meeting, the board will hold a second public hearing to adopt the internal division map. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, so now we're going to open the hearing for public comment. So what I request is...
Wait. I'm sorry. We have questions and things.
We'll get to that. We'll get to our questions for the board.
Motion and second.
Is this a public hearing now?
Yeah, it's a public hearing. You don't.
Right.
Yeah, there's no motion.
Oh,
No
yes.
motion.
Wait.
We're just-
This is the public hearing?
This is the public hearing.
Yeah,
It wasn't
The
announced
first-
that way, I'm sorry.
The first of the public hearing.
it wasn't announced that way. That's the way I announced it. So,
It's on the agenda that way, correct? Yeah, public hearing. That's the only notification that's required.
okay. So we're going to open it up for public comment. Excuse me. Thank you. We're opening it up for public comment. I ask whoever speaks if you could give your name and address, please. Okay.
I remember when this map was done, this was actually
Okay.
the very...
Name and address
Oh,
for record, please.
Please, yes, Jeanette Cavalier, 14582 Indiana School Road, Oregon House, California, 95962. This map was the first resolution district boundary map this district did by code, by legally doing it, public hearings, and at that time we were still under the execution of being in a county that has a federal clearance necessity which now is exempt, and it was done correctly. I have questions, because I want to know, Division 1 through 5 have approximately 1,000. What does that 1,000 represent? Could someone answer that?
I wasn't here when that map was developed. One would assume it would be voters, but it also incorporates people who are not annexed into the district. That would be a thought. I don't know that to be true. I don't know. That's a thought on how they came up with 1,000.
Okay.
Where did the 1,000 come from? I mean, you were on the board when that was adopted.
That is absolutely correct. What I am saying is that it's not annexed parcels, because we don't have, 5,000 plus annexed parcels in the district that I know of, possibly.
It's not parcels, it's voters.
Voters, okay. And I do know from running elections, and Gary could tell you, and anyone else that ran an election, that we don't have 1,000 voters in each division that can vote for us. So I'm not sure where that 1,000 came from, but in this new map, there's no numbers that I saw, at least on the draft that I had seen.
736, 732,
Okay, so-
738.
Okay, so that's the new proposal. And where did those numbers come from, since you're involved?
From the assessor's records, county voting records, and census records.
So what does it exactly mean? It can't be all three. What is it? Is it?
All of those databases were used to find those persons eligible to vote, registered to vote, that live within the district boundaries.
From the census 2000.
And also the county voting and the assessor's records.
Okay. Now, the reason this all occurred is because of the area in Loma Rica that was in question, because we had overlapping boundaries with BVID that were annexed to us, but they were serving or could serve, and so we de-annexed, LAFCO de-annexed those parcels from us to them, correct?
Almost done.
Yes.
Okay, my question is, how many parcels did we de-annex from Loma Rica?
We haven't finished that work yet. We had, last board meeting, I was authorized to do that work. So the meets and bounds and all of the legal requirements and applications are in the works right now.
And it's my understanding that that's what preempted to do this, though.
Yes.
So without having that information, how could you accurately do this map?
As you may recall, I presented LAFCO's sphere of influence, which demonstrated where our boundaries lie. They adopted it in 2011. There was a resolution number on it as well. And we have used those exact same boundaries to start this map.
Okay, so the map, this map, the draft that's in the board package is not that map. The draft is from 2016, and that map has never been in front of the board, was never approved by the board in 2016, which did change boundaries. And so I don't see how we could give the county the old map of 2016 and say, come up with this, when the board never adopted the 2016 map.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
This map here, 2016, this map was created utilizing our legal descriptions, who's annexed. The de-annexation are those that we've just discussed by LAFCO's resolution.
Right.
The balance of the properties left within the district boundary have been portioned to balance, so each division has equal representation, plus or minus, I believe the rules are 10%. These fall right perfectly within that, the way the county produced them. This is before this board.
Correct, I understand.
To have a public hearing, and then to have a second hearing for the approval of this map. Any map prior to this map is not under current consideration.
But what was sent out, Charles, help me, the PDF you sent had two maps. One was a draft.
One's the current boundary map.
Current boundary map, which is dated 2016.
The current one you have on file.
Okay, let's get some more input. You're
So I'll continue.
well over 5 minutes now.
I'll continue. How much time have I got?
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. The map from 2016 you created, because we were both running. It never was voted on by the board. Additionally, you never held any public hearings like you're doing this time around.
You're incorrect, I never did a map prior
Yes,
to this.
then who created the map for 2016? Does it exist?
I certainly did not.
Oh, well then just magically appeared? On number 5, on your, what you read out, you didn't finish completing something. It says, the current Division 5 Director, Eric Hansard, will complete his term as normal since his primary residence continues to be located in District 5 and would be eligible to run for District 4
That's
in the next election.
That's been
In the
correct.
next,
That was
oh, you know about that. Okay.
incorrect.
I've got the new one.
Nice that you corrected that. Manager Maupin, at the last meeting, when you had the boundary map over here, and this is on minutes, you were asked, who's going to do the divisional boundaries? And you said, oh, well, Kelly should do it. They're the best at it. You acted like this didn't exist. The date on this is October 19th of last, it's my time to talk. October 19th of last year. Why wasn't this map brought out earlier than now?
Mr. Wright, you're out of line.
No, I'm not out of line.
Lower your voice and talk in a civil
Why
tone,
wasn't
please.
this map brought out before this? It was done and dated on the bottom, October 19th of last year. You guys are cramming this to the deadline, doing a hearing like this, and doing another hearing so you can cram it up against the election. You know what you're doing, and it's wrong. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
All right, wait, all right.
Yeah.
This is the map, 2016, was drawn by Katie Atkinson, to help define the boundaries. So it's an official publication of the district. It looks like that. Anyway, so the proposed new division map looks like it's been gerrymandered to corral all the irrigation customers right into the brown area, because that's where the canal goes, and from my list of irrigation users and where they are, they all kind of, the current irrigation users are now all in one division. So their representation now goes from 2 representatives to 1, and they all kind of crowd together into the brown area. So it looks like it's been, crafted to create this, get all the irrigation users into one area. I think it's because Doug is tired of the domestic water users subsidizing the irrigation users, so he's trying to get them all in one. Which isn't true. That's just my theory. But,
Let's not put that as a fact.
That's not true.
Minutes.
Okay.
Scratch that comment.
Continue on.
anyway, so what it's doing, and then it creates this yellow area, and it just looks like it's crafted to create something different than an equal distribution. And then if you're going to go through this process of redrawing the boundaries, why not go ask and ask the people that aren't annexed if they want to now join and become annexed? Seems like a reasonable question to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
How many districts now have irrigation?
How many divisions?
Divisions?
In the new map, 1. But there's other onesie-twosie irrigations, right?
101 still traverses through.
I can't hear you.
01
I
is
can't.
2. The answer is 2. 01 and 4.
Which divisions have irrigation? That would be their question.
1 and 4.
1 and 4.
Right, Jeff?
You've got,
2 and 4.
you've got the,
1 would be way up here
Unless
in the
you
light
count
blue,
the,
that doesn't make
the Woodley.
sense. That doesn't make sense.
I would need to look at where the break point for Dry Creek and our turnout is. It's not delineated on this
Can't
map.
be 1.
Nevertheless, the ditch runs through Division 3, Division 2, and Division 4.
So it's either three,
It runs through, the
Right.
irrigation ditch runs through 3
2
Two.
and 4.
and 4.
so there are two divisions now for irrigation, and it's either
There
of those
are-
three.
There's actually three,
There
so
are
it's
3
it's one more
divisions
than
that
what
the
currently-
irrigation facilities run through.
So the irrigation now has 3 directors.
I don't, well, the way I look at it is every director is a director of this district. Every director votes, whether it's domestic or whether it's irrigation. They all vote for the same things. There isn't a separate vote for irrigators and a separate vote for domestic, and there isn't the idea that somehow anybody in the district is marginalized. Everybody at this board votes on every issue, on every agenda, regardless of whether it's domestic or irrigation. So the idea that you have been marginalized is not true.
Okay.
We have been instructed to only call our director in the division we live.
And so anybody that lives in this one, or this one, could call their director if they are receiving service.
And that is not a written policy, so I don't support that, wherever that came from. I don't know where that came from, but
And let's keep moving on with the comments. Any others? Okay.
I have a comment. Right away, that's what I thought, that this is really against the irrigation. This whole thing seems to be that way, and I'm not feeling confident from what you said that that's different.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, we're gonna open up for board comment and discussion. I'd just like to say, looking at the map, the part everyone keeps focusing on, we need to look at the legend at the bottom of the map and the numbers of eligible voters in each division. And look at how closely those numbers are. Do you see that?
okay.
You can see it in front of you, it's right up here. This is taken from 3 sources: consensus, voting records, and county record.
So that, I don't,
Excuse me, I'm supposed to speak, thank you. Assessor's record, county voting records, and census records. That's what has brought this map to fruition. The numbers are very equal. It's equal representation. That you can't argue with that. That's all I gotta say.
Yes, I can.
Anyone else?
You have the number of voters
Excuse
as
me, we're-
equal.
We're done with public. We're done with the public comment. This is now director's comment. Thank you.
yes.
Anyone else?
I think it's interesting to read the second half of paragraph A, where they're giving direction. The board may give consideration to the following factors: topography, geography, cohesiveness, contiguity, integrity, compactness of territory, community of interests of the division. So it's not just rolling the dice on the locations. We need 72 people here, we need 87 people there. There's some thought that was put into this by the county folks that helped us as consultants to try to achieve a good representation of the areas. So it wasn't just about the numbers. It was, the numbers were something that they had to wind up in a certain way, but the way they're created didn't start with numbers, I don't think. Right, Jeff?
No, the only thing that was asked of them, and then we stepped away for the same idea. We knew that gerrymandering was going to be alleged. The idea was, when we gave it to the county, they were the most impartial persons we knew of. And the only thing we asked is that, considering the de-annexation, what's left, would you balance 5 divisions? And they were aware of what you just read, and they do know that all of those criteria are involved in this. But it wasn't as a, they are a consultant, if you will. They're a government agency, right, that we've asked to perform this task for us, and we had no input into it.
Not into the final.
No, only that it balanced.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a number of questions. First of all, I'm going to preface this with a comment. I'm very deeply troubled by how this hearing has come about. And it seems to me that this bears some legal looks because this board meeting was advertised as a board meeting. It was not advertised as a public hearing. And so there are an awful lot of people out there that have no idea this is going on. They think what's happening is a board meeting. So I'm going to just preface that. I'm also very troubled because at the last board meeting, what we voted on, and the only thing that we voted on, was agreeing to change the sphere of influence, which is the boundary map of the district, as was required by law to get rid of the situation we had with annexed parcels that were actually BVID customers. We did not vote to go ahead and say, okay, let's go ahead and redo our lines. We were aware they were. This is on video. The words are there. And in fact, the words specifically, when asked Mr. Maupin, well, how would the redistricting go? Your response was, well, if it were me, I would have the county do it. Now, that's on video.
That's what I just got through saying I had done.
Okay, and the problem here is that this was, right here, this map was generated in October of 2019. That was before we even had the October board meeting. So why wasn't this presented in October when we had a lot of time to go through this and have public hearings so the public could comment? Why is this being so rushed right before elections?
Would you like me to answer that?
Yes, I would.
This map was not created. What was created, this has been an ongoing work with the county over quite some time. The district does not have a mapping system. The district does not have accurate maps. We received a grant for $273,000 from California Rural Water, who started working with us to produce a map, because some of the things that I've talked about since the day I came here is having a hydraulic model and being able to master plan. And in order to be able to do that, we had to identify our actual boundary and our actual annexed customers. So it's been this map has had a lot of different genesis. We have yet to put in the streets, but California Rural Water did GPS all of our utilities, all of our valves, all of our services, all of our hydrants. They have done a fundamental hydraulic model on it. So all of that data that we're getting from them, I'm taking to the county as well to develop this mapping system. Having accurate maps is necessary to the district to be able to maintain and locate its facilities, its underground facilities particularly. So not having maps, not having accurate maps was the genesis of this. As far as being in a position to address the LAFCO concerns, yes, we had a foundational map. Painted all in blue was the last one you saw. This one was a separate work, just like the infrastructure is a separate work. Just like the hydraulic model will be a separate work. Just like the master plan will be a separate work showing what we can and can't serve. So the main boundary will always be the same. Those people annexed into the boundary will always be the same. But how you break them out into color codes, whether it's pressure zone or elections, that will always change. So the foundation map lived. So this was simply another request to take our foundational map and do what I've already suggested. Proportion the divisions so they were balanced.
Okay, that was a whole lot of stuff, and the main question is still the same. Now, I have my own GIS scientist, I have my own ArcGIS software. I'm very, very familiar with GIS. And what I know is that when GIS makes a map, They date it with the date the map was created. This map, according to the GIS data, was made in October, and so this map has already been around.
That's not true. And at the end of the day, GIS does not date its maps. The person who creates the map creates the legend. And so whether that is her date from the original creation of the original boundary for all the things I've already explained to you, whether she updated it or not, that's her mark, that's her work. This map was not created in that date. The main boundary map was. Yours is argument, that's fact.
So Mike, let's go back to my other question. Why has this taken such a long time to come to the forefront? Since this has all been around for quite some time, why is this all being, oh, let's rush and do this just before an election? This could have been done a few months ago. This could have waited till after. Why is this being rushed like this? And why turn this into a public hearing without appropriate notice to the public saying, hey, we're going to have a public hearing, not a board meeting, but a public hearing?
If you had read the LAFCO letter that was submitted back in, I have to go back and look, I think it was June. LAFCO had again asked us to adjust our boundaries and comport to their sphere of influence. That was the catalyst, not a decision on our part. We just answered it. And the answer was at the last board meeting was we de-annexed properties and agreed to do so. I'd have to ask the attorney, but I believe the next part of it, balancing the district, because of the changes, is a legal requirement, and I think it might even have a timeline that it has to be completed. And certainly with the changes you voted to do, we do have to make sure that we have an accurate voting roster to turn into county elections so they could put out proper ballots.
So these 736 are registered voters. Does that mean these are people that are actually voters for our district? Because in Division 4, for example, I only have 330 registered voters when I ran in 2018. So how did I get from 330 to 736?
I can only tell you what we've repeated about 6 times now. The assessor's data, the county voting data, and the census data is all what brought about who in these parcels is eligible to vote.
So this is who's eligible to vote, not necessarily who's a voter.
I would even ask that is in the census data, they just basically take ages, so it's potential voters as well.
Yeah, it's not just registered voters.
It's the people that have the potential to vote.
To register.
Yeah, you don't know who's going to register year to year. So, and the notice requirements were complied with, and I'm happy to provide that info to you. Special districts hold hearings like this. They're noticed in their agenda. It's common for a variety of types of hearings.
Ms. Brenner, I'm very curious, what is your area of expertise in the law?
I have a few areas.
And what would those be? Are you a water rights attorney?
Yeah.
What else?
I do general municipal land use and natural resources.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I know comments are not supposed to be coming from the public. I think it's very urgent.
Thank you. You
No,
just
please,
answered your own
Mr.
question. Thank you.
Mr. Maupin has not identified the parcels.
Okay, we're moving on.
You
Thank
can't
you.
do this without having him identify the parcels. He already said he doesn't know that answer. We don't know what's been de-annexed from.
Sham.
You can't do this.
Are you finished?
What's the benefit of the public if we go around ignorant?
I'm trying to figure out a question.
Do you want to answer, or are we good?
Well, the de-annexation is the process in front of LAFCO.
Right.
Which preempted this to happen.
How often does this map have to be drawn if there's no change? Doesn't LAFCO require that about every 10 years?
I don't know. I don't know the
Because that was my understanding. This map here is dated 2004. 10 years from that is 2014. We changed 22 parcels 2 years ago and did not. It's something like 60 days that we have to respond, and we didn't. With this de-annexation, we're now responding in a timely manner as required, and we're responding, by my understanding, 6 years after it should have been done, just as a matter of course.
Yeah.
So and it wasn't done in a sense, as I understand it, with the LAFCO sphere of influence as the beginning. That was brought in at the end, and it just so happened that they more or less overlapped. So, and the idea of annexing in, how many of these people wanted to be annexed in? These people were de-annexed primarily because we got the tax money from them, but BVID supplies their water. We have no way to supply these people water, but we get the benefit of the tax. And as I understand it from last meeting, the water line stood up and said, well, we're the ones that told you about this, and
Thank
you're
you.
the ones to do it. So, excuse me, this seems to me timely, and it allows us to proceed forward on a master plan and a hydraulic model. And that's really was my interest in this. So.
Anyone else? Okay. So the map's gonna be brought back at a future board meeting for additional public hearing and potentially adopt it.
There's no action taken today.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion, please?
the hearing now.
No.
We should
We're
really
moving
have
on.
a public hearing at the community
Excuse
center.
me, Ms. Cavalier, I gave you 5 minutes of time, two extra minutes other than what I had to, when you had your time to speak. We're moving on. Item H.
So you just need to close the public hearing.
Okay, so that closes the public hearing.